Okay guys, back with another video. I'll be honest, it was gonna be a Robin video next, as usual, but I've been testing out the starter deck for Yamato because it came out here in North America today, and holy shit, this deck is so much fun. It feels so much better. I'm so happy that Yamato got her starter deck, just because when I started playing the game, I actually started playing in OPO 6, right? And that's when Yamato came out, and I'm just like, you know what, this leader is cool. Like, I could stress people out. Unfortunately, as the sets went on, she didn't get that much support. I mean, I guess there was EBO 1, but that was technically support for Red Green Odin. And Yellow Green Yamato, they just didn't get really that much support. And I kind of had to put it on the back burner because there were just other decks I wanted to play. Like, I was playing Bonnie for a bit, Boa, Robin, Smoker. But with this starter deck, like, Yamato is probably a deck I'm gonna pick up and play more often now, just because it's super fun. The support she got was awesome. Me personally, just after solo testing this, I want to asterisk this entire video by saying I've not actually been able to test this deck list with other people yet, just because the starter decks literally just came out today and the cards haven't been on the sim because this is an English release first. Yeah, this deck is bound to change, but like, I'll show you guys what I have so far. The main cards that are in this deck that I kind of want to point out are these two cards. Momo and Yamato. Yes, they're the SRs, and I'll explain why they're good. They're very good in their own way. The one cost Yamato was like super good when it first got leaked, and then the Momo and the Doji got released, and I was like, the Yamato's kind of and then like now I'm playing with the cards. The Yamato is probably the best card in the set, in my opinion now, and I'll explain why. But I want to go over the deck list just like together with you. I'll explain my thought process with the deck list, what my game plan is, and just what I think is good and bad about the card. Okay, first up, I want to go over our searchers. We're running two searchers in this deck. They're both Wano searchers, which is pretty good. Momo is kind of your Wano green searcher. It's the active main one, so you're actually spending 2 Dawn if you're gonna try and do an on-play search, which could be good, it could be bad. There's good and bad reasons to play this card. It's good as a turn 1, but like, it kind of sucks you have to commit a Dawn to actually search, but then at the same time, if it's rested, it sort of acts like an additional target for your opponent to swing into, which could actually act as like a pseudo shield. This Yamato is pretty good because it's an on play, and if you attach 2 Dawn, it actually gains 3k, then plus the 2 Dawn that's on it, it's actually a 5k. So if you actually play this card on turn 1, and then on turn 2 you attach 2 Dawn to it, you could actually get a 5k swing from this Yamato, and then a 6k from your leader, which is actually kind of busted because, again, same concept with Momo. This acts like a pseudo shield. Next up are the rest of the staples. I think these are the Wano staples you're going to be running at 4 in almost any deck. You got your 2k Hiyori. This is the one that takes a top or bottom life and then you just replace it with something else. This deck runs some triggers that I'm going to go over later on. Kiku is one of them, but it's also a really good card to set up to take life and then summon an extra body. So that's sort of how you build your tempo of sorts. Kiku is actually one of those cards you want to set up. So let's say you hit your opponents and they get down to 3 life. This actually summons from life when they have 3 or less life. So setting this up with Hiyori is pretty good. And then honestly, what you could do after is just like put Hiyori into life with Momo, because Momo puts any Wano into life, except for Momo, obviously. So you can't put your searcher, you can't put the 6 cost, and you can't put the blocker, but any other Wano card you could put in. So it's a good way to actually recycle your Hiyori. Okay, next up is I want to go over the banish cards. I'll be honest, from solo testing, I actually haven't used either of this because, I don't know, I just found that there's so much better ways to actually apply pressure to life. Like, yes, you could always throw it in the banish, and it's always good to banish the life. I know this as a Robin player. But at the same time, like, there's going to be a point where they're not going to want to take life anyway, so they actually just counter out. And at that point, you know, you're applying pressure with the 6 cost Momo, your Kikus, your trigger bodies, and honestly, if you want to attack with your blocker, you could do that. That applies a lot more pressure, so they're going to want to counter out anyways. That's why I'm not running as many banish. At the same time, we're running this one at 4 just because it is searchable off of Yamato. One of the big complaints about Onami is that she's not searchable. She's only Straw Hat Crew, like at the bottom. I honestly still think she should be Wano. She's in the Wano outfit. Come on, Bandai. So we're only running her at 2. Honestly, like, she's a good trigger, so I actually wouldn't blame you if you run 3-3. But like, I personally like the searchability, so I'm running a 4 and a 2. Okay, next I want to go over 2Ks because this is probably the easiest one. We got Kinemon and Izo. These both are 2Ks, and honestly, the Hiyori that we saw before, that's also a 2K counter. So these, I honestly find that I'm rarely using, even for their respective effects. I'm not really resting anything because you're applying so much pressure with the bodies on field. And Kinemon, again, like, I'm just really using him as counter. It's good. It's good that it's a trigger body. There's a lot of times where I'd rather keep the counter. Okay, before we get into our actual boss cards, I just want to go over the trigger cards / like the interchangeable cards. Like, I feel like you play all of these cards at different ratios depending on your local meta. Blade Slice, or I call it Flame Spit because I keep hearing it wrong. Really good trigger, really good effect. So the effect is you get your leader or character plus 1k for the turn. So you could use this as a counter. You could use this as a counter or a main effect. And then if your opponent is at 2 or less life, you could rest a 4 cost or less. So this takes care of your chump blockers that, you know, Bonnies, green purple Luffy's are playing, and it gives you a boost. And what's cool about this is if you tie this onto a character, you could actually Yamato affect the Dawn that you just used onto them. So it's a cheeky way to get 7k and to rest the body, essentially for free, honestly. These 3 cards, I think these are also interchangeable. Doji, I still think this is a cracked card. But the deck is pretty tight right now, so that's why I'm only running him at 2. I really want to run this guy at 4, but it's really hard just because it's a generic deck list. Obviously, these ratios are going to change depending on what your local meta looks like, but I want to explain what this is. If your leader is Land of Wano and they have 3 or more life, then you could KO a 5 cost or less with blue purple Luffy. Like, this gets rid of their Bonk Clay / Zoro ramp. Nekomamushi, I want to run this guy at 4 or 3 at least, but I'm only running 2 just as a general testing. When 2 Dawn is on him, he can attack active characters. So again, he will become a 7k body. You can do this off of leader effect or just attaching Dawn randomly, and you can attack your blockers. It's a 7k that can attack blockers. So this takes care of your Rebekkas, your chump blockers, etc. Like, you're essentially forcing them to use counter. Denjiro is another trigger body. When 2 Dawn is attached to him, he cannot get killed by opponent's effects if they have 3 or less life, which they'll probably have if you're at Yamato, if you're playing Yamato. This just goes for the Lucci matchup. You know, if you keep 2 Dawn on him, you know he's going to be safe. It's a 6k body and it's a life trigger card, so that's pretty good. Setting these cards along with Kiku is pretty good, especially if you want to push your own tempo. It's a little bit bittersweet just because you are technically taking life, but at the same time you're building a pretty big board. Like, you got 5k, 5k, 6k. Kiku's also a 6k. So a lot of good targets to pull off of life. And honestly, like, Onami with the KO 5 cost or less, or even Blade Slice. Blade Slice just rests a 4 cost or less off of life. So a lot of good Hiyori targets. Okay, one of our boss cards, Hody Jones. Yes, you are taking life, but honestly, that's always not that bad. And I'll explain a little later. But you're taking life and you're resting a Dawn and character, or a Dawn and a Dawn, or character and character. So 2 cards essentially. And then it's an AK Rush that you could obviously tag onto with Yamato. Here's your big staple of the deck. We got our 6 cost Momo. Let me just read the effect. So on your turn, if you have 2 or less life, your leader gains 1k power. So I'm going to explain why that's sort of important later. And then active main, once per turn, you may return 2 of your total currently given Dawn cards to your cost area rested. What the fuck does that mean? It essentially means you return, so you have 2 attached Dawn, you take those 2 Dawn, and then you have it out rested. A little weird effect. I'll explain like how I'm using it a little later. But let's read the rest of the effect. You may return 2 total of your currently given Dawn cards to your cost area rested. Then this character gets rush and 1k power during this turn. That's pretty nutty, just because you could use this in so many different orders. Like, because I'm not playing this guy at 6 Dawn or 6 or 7 Dawn. I'm usually playing like Momo Hiyori at 6 or 7 Dawn. I like using this guy at like 8 or 9 Dawn, and this is why. Because you play this guy out for 6. Let's say you have a different body on board, whether it be Momo, like Blocker Momo, or one of the trigger bodies. So you play this out for 6, and then take the 2 other rested Dawn, you put it onto one of the other characters, you swing with that, and then you use Momo's effect. So you take those 2 Dawn back, keep it rested, and then you use Yamato effect. Yamato attaches 2 rested Dawn to any character, not leader. So you could use Yamato effect to then put that 2 Dawn onto Momo, and then you got a 6 cost 9k rush. That's giving your leader 1k power during the turn as well. So that's pretty strong. So I want to explain one more intricacy and one of the counterplays to this Yamato deck as well. This Yamato deck is really good on applying pressure, which is good. That's kind of what she wants to do. But then at the same time, her cards, like, I'm not sure if you noticed, a lot of her cards are kind of bricks. Like, you got your Kikus, you got your Denjiros, like these 2 cards, Momonosuke blocker, you got your event cards. Like, those don't have counters, so it's hard to defend board. So a lot of the time, since you're attacking with a lot of things really quickly, like, I would say the main counter play to Yamato, at least from what I'm seeing so far, is just to like keep swinging board to just get rid of her tempo. Sort of similar to how you deal with Red Zoro. Like, you just want to gas them out as fast as possible. And in part with gassing them out, you're going to starve the Yamato, because they're not going to be hitting your life as much because they want to take care of your board. That's sort of where Hody Jones and Momo gets that sort of secret like chemistry. I don't know what's called, synergy. I guess it's synergy. But really, if you're at 3 life with Yamato, which honestly you're going to be at 3 life a lot, and they're just starving you out, so you're not actually getting the +1 from Momo, Hody actually takes your life so that it activates this Momo effect, which is, again, something I'm not sure how frequent that would happen, but I think it's a really good tech knowledge to have when you're getting starved out with Yamato, because honestly, like, you still want to rush and swing in them with Yamato decks anyways, so you're going to be playing a Hody Jones. But just another way to think about it, if you're taking a Hody Jones life, you're actually activating this card, granted it's on the field already. So those are stuff to think. You want to defend this card as much as possible. I want to sort of go over these 2 cards a little more, because these 2 cards are very powerful, especially if you hit like the quote-unquote perfect curve of sorts. So really, turn 1, I think you want to play Yamato. You're looking for this in your mull just because it's a top 5 searcher. The only downside of it, I forgot to mention, is that you can only search a 2 cost or more. So you can't actually search Blade Slice, you can't search Momo, but you can search your other Wano cards. And it kind of sucks because those cards are important, but you know what? Like, the second effect is already pretty good. So like, I'm not really complaining. Okay, so I'm going to visualize this a little just because I want to explain these 2 cards specifically. So on your 1 Dawn turn, let's say you play out the Yamato and then you search out any card. That's fine. Your turn 2, when you're on 3 Dawn, what you could realistically do is you could play out 6k Yamato, and let's say they take it, right? So now they're at 3 or 2 life. And then what you could do is you could play out Momo. Momo gets you a search, right? You get whatever card you want, and then you could Yamato effect because they're at 3 or 2 life. You tag 2 to Yamato, and then that's another 5k. That's another 5k that they either have to take or Yamato. It's another 5k they have to take or counter out. I know it is a weak swing, but look at your board. You have 2 rested cards. This is always going to be a threat because you could just continually search, and this is always going to be a threat because it's just a 5k swing every turn with leader effect. So they have to get rid of both of these cards, and both of these cards act as pseudo shields, which again is pretty strong on turn 2. Remember, we're on turn 2, so that's really strong. These 2 cards kind of defend you in the early game, which is kind of nuts. Okay, so I want to actually explain what happens or what you could do if they actually decide to counter out the 6k swing, because let's be honest, it's a 6k swing, super easy to counter out. It's just a 2k, and honestly, a lot of people aren't going to want to eat a double attack like on turn 2, just because they also know Yamato's effect as well. Yes, people do take the double attack sometimes because it is technically more cards in their hand to defend with in the future, or it's more plays that they have, but like more than likely they're not going to take it. That's fine. Like what you just do is just do a 5k swing with Yamato. Again, 2 Dawn on her gives her +3 plus the 2 Dawn here, so that's a 5k swing. This one they most likely take just because they just gave up a 2k counter, and if they give another counter, that's a really sad hand that we're looking at. That's just really hard to defend in the future turns. So they'll likely take this one. And plus, it's not a double attack, so who could it hurt? Who could it hurt? If they're a 5 life leader, they're at 4 life, and if they're a 4 life leader, they're at 3 life, which is very interesting because that immediately enables Doji, which will KO anything on their board. Because we're on 3 Dawn, unless they're doing some crazy ramp, like they're going to be at 4 Dawn, the highest thing they could play is a 4 cost. This, if they have 3 life or more, can KO a 5 cost or less, right? And just because they decided to counter out the double attack and they took one of these attacks, they're going to be at 4 or 3 life, which means this card kills anything on their board. And then, honestly, because they're at 5 Dawn, you actually have 2 Dawn to spare. So, like, realistically, you could do a 7k swing with Yamato. That'll activate her effect. And then you could just do your other Yamato swing, granted she's alive. Honestly, she probably won't be just because they would have swung into her. But still, like, very strong. You're getting rid of their board. And still swinging a pretty big double attack, 7k. Especially when they counter out already. That's pretty strong. So I just wanted to explain that little route. It's like one of those small routes you should consider when playing Yamato, just because people thought this card was pretty bad. I think this card is pretty good. I'd honestly like to play more of it. It's just the deck is super tight, at least the way I'm playing it right now. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to apply pressure, and you also have to consider that a lot of Yamato's thing is just swinging into and then using leader effect for more big swings. So it's going to be a fast game, so you want to manage your board while sort of negging their life as fast as possible. Okay, so in my opinion, these are the 4 cards that you want in the deck almost all the time. These are the cards you want to mull for, just because they open up so many plays in the future. This is your Searcher. These two sort of work super well together in setting up your trigger characters. And this guy is so good when it comes to late game, especially in tandem with Hody. Hody is always going to be like a card that's going to be in any green deck, but these two work so well together, especially when you're getting starved. And yeah, that's pretty much the starter deck video. First starter deck video, wow. I didn't think I'd make one of those videos. But anyways, I'm really excited to play Yamato. Again, I super love this leader. It was the first leader I actually played in the game. And I'm so glad that she got some support. I think she just needs that one boss card. I think she needs that one boss card, and then she'll be over the top. But in my opinion, she's a very strong tier 2. I'm gonna keep coping and saying tier 1.5, but honestly, like, if I had to be honest, a very strong tier 2. A very strong tier 2. I think I posted my deck list at the beginning. I'm gonna post it again right here. Bang. Right there. So yeah, you could take this deck list. You could, mess around with the ratios, So yeah, I hope you guys have fun with this deck. I hope you guys get good pulls in OP11. Apparently the starter decks have OP11 packs in it. Unfortunately, I didn't get anything, but I hope you guys get those. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Guys, I hope you liked it. I hope I was able to explain this deck and my thought process as clearly as I can. I know I can be a little scatterbrained sometimes, but you know what? I'm doing my best. But guys, if you have any comments or suggestions of how I should change up this deck, or if you have any ideas for other decks you want to try out, just please leave them in the comments below. And just leave a like if you liked the video. And stick around next time with a sub, because because I'm going to be doing another Robin or a Nami video soon. So yeah, just hit sub if you want to stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.